third session is masterclass on voice, trust, and inclusion, how AI is powering the next wave of FinTech in India. Let's welcome our speaker, Mr. Gautam Rege, Director and co-founder of Josh Software.
Good afternoon. Some people always get the privilege of walking on stage in jeans and shirt. Why? Because I just call myself a techie. Good to see that very few blazers here, which means everyone is tech inclined, I'm hoping. Forever since the movie industry, Charlie Chaplin has always been the epitome of how acting is defined. The irony is that he could speak without speaking. His actions were paramount in a way where he was able to explain to people what was going on, which made it very interesting because you could see these silent films right in a village in India to the Met in New York. And that's what made Charlie Chaplin famous, because he ensured that everybody heard him. My talk today is entirely themed around Charlie Chaplin because it's an irony to what we live today. Voice is as critical as less spoken by Charlie Chaplin. And here is, in this talk, is how we look at how we want to change the initiative. A lot of us believe that inclusion is all about helping everyone, ensuring everyone is part of our ecosystem. Unfortunately, just because if you know how to sign does not mean you're literate, does not mean you should know how to use a smartphone or a mobile app. What happens to the people who are actually not very comfortable with it? And stories speak louder than words. My maid at home, she came to me and said, Dada, cash paije. Sir, give me cash. I'm like, I don't have cash at home. I don't even carry a wallet. You know this concept of UPI and where this online transfer. She said, yes, I've heard of it. I'm like, good. What an inclusive country we live in. And then slowly she said, I need cash. I'm like, again? Wait, I'll help you out. Like the joker that I am, I said, you know what, I'm going to go the distance and I'm going to help you open a bank account. So I asked her, you have an Aadhaar card? Yes. I'm like, thank God. Is it linked to your mobile phone? Yes. Oh, lucky. So I actually took her to the bank. I got an account opened for her and all sorted. And then 5 days later, she comes back and tells me, Dada, cash paije. Sir, I need cash. I'm like, dude, now what? I already opened a bank account for you. Yeah, it says you activate the SIM card, activate the debit card from the mobile app. And there I started thinking and realized so many people in India, they may be literate, but English is not their first language. And you may believe that, we have this multilingual feature in all apps. It's a feature. That doesn't do anything more. What happens to the people who are not so fluent in English? Irony again is I'm speaking in English. But actually मुझे हिंदी में बात करना चाहिए. मराठी माझी भाषा है. I'd love to speak in my own mother tongue and assume that everyone understands what I'm saying. And therein lies the trust. Are we really inclusive? And are we really building the trust? And we are all at, GFF, but there are so many people in rural India who would probably be more comfortable speaking in their own mother tongue and their dialect too. And this maid of mine, poor lady, she says it was so complicated for her. First, she had to upgrade her smartphone because the app said you need these minimum constraints. that phone costs now like 10,000, 11,000 bucks, so I won't install it. So she got a second-hand refurbished phone. Then it said do an eKYC. And she's like, what is all this? So these complex workflows create problems. Now, does that mean we cannot solve this problem? AI can help us solve it, the age-old problem that we've been facing. Now, I come from a tech background. A very, 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 very brief introduction about myself. And my entire presentation has absolutely zero reference to what I do, about me and my company. The only reference you'll see there is Josh. Because, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have. Josh Software is an 18-year-old company. I started this company when I had a lot of hair. And over the last 18 years, the company's been doing really well. And I'm a techie at heart, techie by profession. I still code. When I started Josh, I started with the intent of every other tech entrepreneur. I want to build a product, I want to make a difference. Till I realized that building a product is all about sales, strategy, go to market. And I'm like, why मेरे को programming आता है? I know how to solve problems. So I started working on medical software first, logistics, supply chain, all open source work, a lot of Ruby, a lot of Go, a lot of Java, a lot of Node, a lot of Python, a lot of React, Flutter, all these things. I love learning new things. And in the last maybe 10 years, a lot of companies started coming to us because here can we build this expertise in Go and Kubernetes and stuff like that. And then we started realizing that we were working a lot in the fintech space. And then ChatGPT happened. And I can bet, ladies and gentlemen, very few people here will know what the full form of GPT is. Any takers? Exactly. Generative predictive transformer. But what does that mean? And trust me, we don't even need to get into it. It means there is some machine which is listening to me, talking to me, understanding my context, continuing a conversation. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was a game changer a few years ago. What we used to consider as maybe it's a bubble started becoming every day for us. Remember, AI is here to stay. It is going to bring up efficiency. I have a very simple philosophy among the 300 people in my company. I tell them every day, upskill or die. It's as simple as that. We have to adapt. We have to adopt AI. And artificial intelligence is only going to make us better. Without saying anything, all of y'all are already using a lot of devices. Smartphones is the very common thing. I can see a lot of people wearing specs, but I'm sure a lot of y'all are also wearing contact lenses. Some of y'all have done a LASIK. All this technology is just helping us become better humans. And this is the big shift. What we used to think as efficiency is going to be everyday empowerment tomorrow. Now, I believe voice is literacy, not a signature dealing mechanism. If I can transact with my voice, I am empowered. I don't want to type. I don't want to type in English. I don't want to type in Hindi, Marathi, my mother tongue. I want to speak. Speaking, if I have to mention something, or talk to somebody, or tell somebody to do something in my mother tongue, I'm far more comfortable in explaining exactly what I want to do. And in India, this is the need of the hour. Actions speak louder than words. I hope on my next click that video plays. मेरे पास पैसा कितना है?
आपके खाते में 1,42,825.00 रुपए हैं.
I asked, मेरे पास पैसा कितना है. I did not say मेरे अकाउंट में बैलेंस कितना है. It's not word parsing. It's intent. I'm here to find out what is it that you would ask. Would you ever go and ask a person, can you please check the last account balance and see what is the balance in my account, in my bank account? No, you just want to know मेरे पास पैसा कितना है and speak easily. So once we are able to find out intent, we are going to be able to make a lot of people build that trust. Now this app that you see is an application which has a dummy core banking system behind with actual core banking APIs which can be integrated with any core banking system. But balance check तो मैं पढ़ भी सकता हूँ. Let's try something different. शैलेश को 50 रुपए भेज दो.
कई लाभार्थियों में शैलेश नाम मिलता है. कृपया सही लाभार्थी की पुष्टि करें.
शैलेश पाटिल.
प्लीज कंफर्म द ट्रांजैक्शन 50.00 तो शैलेश पाटिल बाय एंटरिंग द OTP यू हैव रिसीव्ड ऑन योर रजिस्टर्ड मोबाइल नंबर. $50.00 टेक्स्ट शैलेश पाटिल को सफलतापूर्वक ट्रांसफर कर दिया गया. आपका वर्तमान बैलेंस 1,42,775.00 रुपए है.
3-4 different things here. 3-4 mistakes too. Nothing is perfect. This is already rectified. What was the mistake here? It started in Hindi and then spoke in English. Right? It's fixed. But I intentionally wanted to keep that original video because I told my team that's learning. Few other things here. Transfer. Why? Because we are using a few models and we have actually started working with AI for Bharat and Sarvam to integrate it. Sala problem kidhar aa gaya that the API does not give out numbers carefully. It will still speak numbers in English. So I told them, we'll keep the demo and that's the next part of integration. But what is the biggest learning from this? It's called reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning is when things don't work out, we actually tune the model to get it better. The other two important things in this was that it found out that I want to transfer to Shailesh. I did not say beneficiary Shailesh Patil. I said मुझे Shailesh को 50 रुपया भेज दो. It figured out there are multiple beneficiaries by the name Shailesh. It asks which is the one you actually want to send to, shows the details, which also means that now the context is being maintained. I say Shailesh Patil. It does the transaction. OTP आएगा. In this particular case, we intentionally asked them to type it, but you know how smartphones work. Just click, click, move. These kind of things now suddenly make it easier without me using any kind of keyboard. Shall we continue to the next demo?
One quick question there.
Sure.
So, like, it's wonderful as an example. You spoke very spoken Hindi, but the answer was a very tough Hindi.
Absolutely. Oh. Tell me, thank you for asking that question. Labharti.
Labharti, Vartaman. Not many people know.
Absolutely. In fact, that is the next part of reinforcement learning that we actually have to put into the models. Now, this is what happened with typical languages. You train the LLMs, the large language models, with the entire vocabulary. But nobody trains them with spoken languages. This is work in progress, ma'am. Thank you for asking that question. Labharti, who here knew Labharti means beneficiaries? So for me, it was learning. Oh, sure, okay, Labharti means beneficiary, all right. Let's hope nobody asks me that question. But it's not about Hindi. To be honest, I don't know what a beneficiary would be in normal Hindi. But these things make life interesting. Because it's not just about ensuring that if you speak ekdam shuddha Hindi, I don't think any one of us will understand. But for now, we have to live with it. But it's a step forward. And slowly, imagine Imagine if you had a dialect in, for, now I have to digress a little bit. You all have all seen Hera Fairy, right? Imagine if I have Hindi spoken by Babu Bhai. कौन सा शैलेश चाहिए भाई तेरे को? It's interesting, it's fun, but you know what? It'll make me use the app more often. So it is not just enough to have Hindi understood or Marathi understood. It's also important to be able to make sense to it. But ma'am, excellent question, because this is the only way we are going to get people to understand or make the large language models learn.
मागच्या 6 दिवसात मी किती पैसे खर्च केले आहेत?
गेल्या 6 दिवसांत तुम्ही सर्वाधिक 2,552.00 खर्च केला, विशेषतः शैलेश पाटील याच्यावर 1,810.00.
Shailesh Patil has become rich. खर्च केला. For the people who are Marathi inclined, it's खर्च केला. Kela, Keli, Kela. We have to figure that out. And the second one was the Hindi. It spoke the numericals in Hindi, not in Marathi. Again, fine tuning will work. But here is an interesting part. I did not ask them, please do a statement analysis of the categories in which my spends are. And now if you go to, I think, all banking apps, you will have something called a spend analyzer. And you can do a spend analysis and it'll show you a super fancy pie chart. Your spend in retail, commerce, education, food, travel. यार मेरे को चाहिए खाने पे कितना खर्चा किया मैं. And imagine if it's that simple for me to just ask. I got an enhancement request also that while you are just showing or you're listening or it's speaking, you might as well also show the retail transactions. Trivial job for us to do. In fact, that's my next demo.
पिछले 13 दिनों में मैंने खाने पे कितना खर्चा किया है?
आपने पिछले 13 दिनों में भोजन श्रेणी पर 8,127.00 रुपए खर्च किए हैं.
Bhojan Shreni. Very interesting. I didn't know it's called Bhojan Shreni. But well, now I know. But here is the interesting part. I can ask, last 13 days, how much have I spent? Why is this so important? Why do I need to know? Because when we are looking at, as we get down into the lower income group and really low income group, daily money management matters. There is no value for me trying to get a bank statement with a filter, date filter for 13 days or saying last 30 days or last 1 month and then finding out and deciphering from that what my spend was. I need quick fire speech which tells me how much have I spent on food? Why food? Because it helps me understand my current working balance. What working capital do I have? Imagine for a small business which is running, say, a small pan tapri. Right, the person is busy doing inventory management and selling it, and he needs to know what his working capital is. How much money can I actually spend on something else? So he needs to know what have I spent on that particular vendor, that particular supplier. Ask this question while making a pan, and you have your answer ready. Such kind of use cases are going to be critical for the masses. Let's see one more. Any Tamilians here?
நான் கடந்த 10 நாட்களில் எவ்வளவு செலவு செய்திருக்கிறேன்?
It is.
கடந்த 10 நாட்களில் நீங்கள் தனித்தனியாக இருந்து 1552.00 செலவழித்துள்ளீர்கள். குறிப்பாக 1,810.00 சைலேஷ் பாட்டீலுக்கு செலவிட்டுள்ளீர்கள்.
English. Believe it or not, in this particular slide, it's actually written because even I need to know what what it asked. And I don't know Tamil, but I completely buy that argument. It's the same argument that was there for Hindi and Marathi, where it is not about English, it's about spoken, it's about spoken languages, right? Yes, sir.
No, what she said, like I think it was missed that it was spoken like English. So more than the complexity of the language per se, it is the way it is spoken, which is like English. Maybe so the model not just need a training on like a spoken English, spoken Hindi, but also the way we speak Hindi, the intonation, the modulation, etc.
The tone
The tone. Yeah.
and the accent, the dialects, it is not yours. And you will realize why. I am a fan of Sarvam and AI for Bharat. And I'm making this on record. They're doing a stellar job. It is a long way to go. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't end up using them. Even in our particular demo here, we had to backtrack and go to OpenAI Whisper model to figure it out. Because while the language, the intonation, the tone, even the speech is brilliant, it was a little unstable at times. We're now working with them to ensure that stability comes in. One last demo, which actually helps us figure out what all I can do in an app.
मैं किन लोगों को पैसे भेज सकता हूं?
लाभार्थियों की सूची।
The second time you'll figure out that you're actually trying to find new Hindi words, which the app is also teaching you. But it's easy for us to find out मैंने किसको कितना पैसा भेजा है. And I have the app here with me, which we can actually play around after this. My only worry is that I was trying to out the range is, even though I see full range, I think it's just because the sheer size of people that it requires a little bit of bandwidth here. Triggering an AI, UI, API integrations. This app can talk to MCP, the Model Context Protocol, trying to figure out answers. Core banking APIs, we already work with FlexCube. We are working with Finacle now a little bit to figure these out. Core banking APIs can be done. Now, does it matter if I have a language? Like typically when I'm speaking to you, I will speak in a mixed language of Hindi, Marathi. Like I don't know what the English meaning of words
मेरे
transactions.
लास्ट 8 ट्रांजैक्शंस कौन से थे?
मेरे लास्ट 8 transactions. So mix of
आपके
Hindi.
8 नवीनतम लेनदेन इस प्रकार हैं।
So Navintam Lenden means recent transactions. Right? While we are all learning Hindi, but I'm never going to use Navintam Lenden. I'm always going to say last 8 transactions kaun se the. But the context of these languages will pick it up. It'll convert it, take the intent, find the entities that are involved, fire that core banking API, get that result back, and portray the results on the screen.
So are you able to do that context switching, or I mean, are you doing, or is it Sarvam or
Sarvam, AI for Bharat, these are, we use their voice. We use their voice for doing speech to text and text to speech. The core model, and I'll show the architecture, which brings me to a very interesting question. This, ladies and gentlemen, is not a product. I am not here to tell any NBFC, banking, finance, insurance, corporation to say, I'm here to sell a product. Because that is just downright wrong. This is a service. This is a demo to showcase to all of y'all what y'all can build yourselves. All this is open source component. Not a single component of this goes outside your ecosystem. There is no calls to a third party. We don't call DeepSeek. We don't call OpenAI APIs. We are using OpenAI Whisper model, which we are going to replace with Sarvam or with AI for Bharat, whichever works well, which will get us excellent speech, but there are limitations there. Not in terms of ability, but in terms of reinforcement learning. And this particular setup is as simple as even putting out the architecture diagram as simply as I could put it, where we want everyone to start using this. This is not, I'm using Llama. And it's that simple, that if you can figure out the intent, you can figure out the entities, you can actually get through this architecture with finding out the intent and the entities. Does that answer your question, sir? Which all components are we using? Are we going outside? We are not going out of the ecosystem. We are using transcriptions, translations, core banking API integration. We are using AI for Bharat for translating and text to speech, speech to text. All these can be very easily implemented in any kind of infrastructure that we are looking at. The essence of ensuring that we are able to change the game is when we all work in a situation where we do not need to have dependency on an off-the-shelf product. It's very easy for me today to say, you know what, let's build a product out of it and go and sell it. But like I said, I'm a problem solver. My company is a problem solver. At Josh, we work with a lot of different FinTech institutions solving problems. I'm not there to sell their business for them, which is why every time we build some kind of a demo, we always keep it entirely open source. We have lived off open source. We will be going out with a bang with open source, and we'll be telling people exactly how this can be done. All these entities can be completely within the ecosystem of to ensure your security of data, sanctity of data. All these components are open source components, so there is no additional charge to it except the use for the compute that you have, the infrastructure that you build. Servam has a pricing model, but there are plenty of models that you can use with Servam itself. Going forward, we had a few of these. So I was showing this demo to people. What else are we going to do with this demo? We are going to have list of core banking integrations which are already coming in. Straightforward stuff. But suddenly, these things I haven't mentioned here, privy to all you folks, people ask me, what about authentication? Can I do voice authentication? And I'm like, you can, but should we? Imagine somebody actually has a sore throat and you can't log into your mobile app. And everyone already has existing authentication systems. But then there were certain other interesting demands which came in. Can I have detailed analysis of systems telling me what I should be aware of, anomalies? Yes. The third was, what happens if I want to pass on a secret coercive message? Like how you have your emergency SOS, if I can do it on voice. Because today, I believe OTPs are not secure. If somebody steals your phone today and takes and unlocks your phone with your biometric, that OTP has zero value to you. But if you have a voice-enabled app, until you actually speak, it's not actually going to do something. So can you have a lock on your app for your voice? Interesting ideas. Can you have a secret warning word? Say like, hey Mahatma, Shailesh ko paisa bhej do. Actually, it says, sorry, something wrong with the system. Because you used your own security, like you have security questions, you use voice intonations to actually figure out, what? I want to lock the app. I want to lock my account. I want to lock my account temporarily. These kind of games can be played once you have the voice, once you have these configurations done, once people get comfortable with using voice banking. Now, once I started showing this demo to people said, hang on, let me show it to somebody else. But what I liked about it was, they were not showing it to their friends. One person called his driver, like, Yetik, bol, kuch to bol. And I was scared, like, damn it, will it actually work or not? Said, sir, ye chahiye na mujhe app, mere ko do na, main bhi use karta hu. Started realizing slowly, we started showing it to some few people on the street. And all these are people who are not known to me, but we showed it to a few shopkeepers and realized that, people actually were having fun. So you are actually asking questions around this ecosystem, and they had a sense of pride that, hey, somebody is listening to me. Now, my ask for a lot of fintech institutions, especially banks, is why not change the game? It's very easy to change the game, because once a bank builds trust, that's where the genuine leadership in this industry will actually take forward. Again, I believe Charlie Chaplin, by the way, back to Charlie Chaplin, had one episode. Anyone knows which movie this is from? The Great Dictator. The Great Dictator is the only movie where he spoke, he gave a speech. And in just the context for this movie, he becomes the Führer, Hitler, by mistake. People misjudge him because he looks like him. And he goes on stage and he's supposed to give some victory speech. And Charlie Chaplin, when he gave the speech, actually spoke out of his heart, because you can see, at that time there was no teleprompter, and you can see that his eyes don't move. And he's actually speaking from the bottom of his heart. If you ever get a chance, go and see that speech by the great dictator, Charlie Chaplin. And I believe that's what I want to proclaim. That if you want to build trust, voice is literacy. If you want everyone to bank with you, you have to bank with everyone. Thank you. I'm absolutely open for questions, sir.
When we are saying that banking, enabling the unbanked people banking, typically they are not very security aware as well. Okay. And given the current these days, they are the most vulnerable guys who can really get spammed or scammed.
Yes.
Even the educated people are getting a scam, but they are much more likely. So how do we balance that as well?
Using voice or in general, sir?
In general, like voice could be one of the tools, but unless we really do that as well, maybe we are enabling them, but also we are like without any guardrails.
So, when you're using voice as a means to transact, okay, it means I'm actually having a conversation with some person on the other side. Like, for example, if I'm speaking to a support agent in a bank, I'm very sure that I'm speaking to a support agent. If somebody calls me back, I have no idea whom I'm speaking to. I'm always going to be cautious. Now imagine you have a banking app which talks to you with an assistant. I can actually ask a lot of questions like, you know what, actually I want to invest some money, what should I do? And I know that it is going to come in from that particular source because I opened that app and I clicked the button. So my initiation is from my side. Having what we need to actually guard on is the context of the person's intent, which remains within that ecosystem of the bank. Which is why I'm a firm believer that when we're dealing with people and voice and intent, that information should always reside within that ecosystem. It should not go out, because that intent can actually cause harm. Because you can find out demographics, you can find out intent from people and then use that against you. So as long as the ecosystem is secure, these kind of things are going to make it more accessible to a lot of people to ensure that voice becomes your first go-to AI person that I can trust. Not incoming, but outgoing, effectively. I'll come. Yes, ma'am.
With regards to the voice AI that you talked about, I feel that one of the major challenges when it comes to voice AI is the latency. So how do we address that latency?
All right. I'll just repeat the question. What about latency? You could see the latency in the demos also. It used to keep going in the transcribe part. Yes, latency is an issue, but latency is a factor of infrastructure and scale, which is very easily solvable. You have a better NVIDIA here, right? So you have a good, nice GPU which can translate, transcribe, translate, and hit the APIs. All banking APIs today, and this is hosted by NPCI. NPCI has very high level of latency on APIs. So the key part is going to be translating the voice, transferring it, processing it. And this is a factor of infrastructure which all banks can very easily handle. Bandwidth in India is never an issue. Now, bandwidth is there everywhere. There is phone penetration everywhere. So it's an infrastructure issue. It's a cost issue which the banks will pick up. Yes, sir.
Sir, what about edge devices, having such kind of model on edge devices rather than a smartphone? That's my first question. And second,
I'll take one at a time then. So what about edge devices? Can we have some intelligence on edge devices? Yes, we can definitely have intelligent edge devices, but it makes the device expensive. So there are mixed models. where today you have a lot of chips, especially Apple is getting into the where you have edge devices with intelligence on chip, but it's expensive. When you want to build a solution which is going to target everyone, and especially a country like India, where phones are cheap, bandwidth is literally free, we should focus more on the infrastructure scaling rather than edge device, because then we are genuinely inclusive. India focus. Your second question, sir?
Yeah, so we are still into that STT and TTS mode, right? So is there anything wherein directly voice can be sent to the model and then the model speaks back? Then probably we don't have that English to Hindi conversion kind of.
So there are two things here. Voice is an LMS. So there are two things here. So one is recording it, transferring it, translating it, and you could have a mixed language. I can say, "Maja balance madhe paisa kitna hai." So it can be anything. This is India, right? And if you give this app out, I'm sure people will try to translate it. So translating it, understanding the intent, and then converting. The most important part is actually not the STT-TTS. It's actually converting the intent into the entities. Which API should I call? मेरे पास पैसा कितना है? I have to decipher I have to tune the model to figure out the intent that this is a bank balance API. मैं किसको पैसा भेज सकता हूँ is an intent to list beneficiary API. And that, sir, has been the most tricky problem that we had to fix. Movement of STT DTS, the speech to text, text to speech, is actually a far simpler solvable problem. NLP, natural language processing, converting that into intent is actually a solved problem today because of the large language models. But converting all these into entities, into which API should I call, because I cannot afford to call the wrong API. That was the game that we had to play very, very, very strictly here. Yes? Not at all. Not at all. But the concepts are solved. What remains is retraining, understanding. TTS and STT are actually solved. The problem is the language that needs to be translated into the intent. So text to speech is no, even for languages, converting the text that I'm typing into speech, very standard problem which is solved with phenomes which are there. Converting speech to text is a matter of recording and translating, which is also easy. But finding out the intent from that, especially with dialects, especially with colloquially spoken languages, instead of labharti, right? And I'm trying to figure out what was the thing for transactions. But that's len-den. That's difficult. And that needs to be learning. That's why I said it's a fantastic question, ma'am, you asked.
Typical word for labharti in spoken language. Just it's a contextual rather than a specific language.
Because that's how we speak today. Our speech is all about context. It's about how I want to communicate a problem, but I want to ensure that you understand with not, Shashi Tharoor kind of English.
Hello. Sir,
Yes, sir.
I have a question here.
Sorry, who? Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what you're basically saying is the qualification criteria for going to which API is the major problem that you need to solve here, right? When the customer says something, you need to qualify certain aspects. So in that respect, do you recommend to break it down in terms of different variables? Like for example, and I come from the lending background here, right? So if a person wants a loan, do I categorize it as a Boolean variable कि customer ने पूछा है कि मुझे loan चाहिए, that is a yes or a no. Customer ने बोला है मुझे 5 लाख के ऊपर लोन चाहिए, so greater than equal to 5 lakhs. And customer ने बोला है कि उसे suppose मुझे लोन नहीं चाहिए, so that becomes Boolean and a value and something like greater than, less than, right? String variables.
Talking to a programmer, if else, if then else is not how this works. Because that's what you call as a decision tree.
Yeah.
What here is that you have to actually find what is called the intent. Nobody is going to say मुझे 5 लाख का लोन चाहिए. आप क्या मुझे 5 लाख रुपए दे सकते हो? There is no word, no mention of loan, but you have to find the intent. That's where the language is. That's where the translation, that's where the intent generation is found out. Then from the intent, you have to find the entities. So once you know the intent, then you find the entity as your loan, which are your resources. And then you fire the relevant API. So you find from the intent you find the entities, from the entities you find the action on the entity. And that model it's not the model, it's actually the logic which needs to be really well tuned for that. Yes and no. Yes and no. It starts with finding out the intent, and then it has to actually translate to the right entity. And I lost a little hair there too.
Excuse me.
I'll explain it, but I'll explain it after this. Let's definitely talk because tech person hai.
Yeah.
We'll definitely talk about the intent.
Excuse me. Yeah. So I also come from the NLP background, and I think it's great to hear this application. So even the mapping of text to intent or extracting entities, it's been there from a long time in an NLP world, right? But somehow, and as you said, the text to speech and speech to text is also solved. These are problems which we have been working on for a long time. But why is it that the adoption of this has not happened yet for use cases like this? Because this technology of intent detection was still there 10 years ago.
Yes, it was.
So what changed? What is it? Why are we at a precipice now that the adoption will take place? Because when Google search came out, Google voice search came, right? Google's voice search adoption has also not hit significantly, right? So why is it that somehow the voice adoption is not happening as fast as the technology is moving for it?
Experience. Today, all the banks have realized that it's not about customer acquisition. It's not about customer retention. It's about customer experience. And today, the tier 1 cities are almost all saturated. So if you want to get into the tier 2, tier 3 cities, and you want to build the right customer experience, voice is the only way which is going to be the game changer for them.
I completely agree with you, right? I'm just wondering so you're saying the experience is the main blocker, which needs to be done, right?
Because customer acquisition was
anyway.
You stand somewhere and say, please file this credit card application, right? Please fill it. Customer retention was, I'm giving you reward points. But now I want to see what's the experience that you're getting. And I can tell you straight up, I have an Amex card and I have an Axis Bank card, which used to be Citibank. The Amex experience is insane. And I'm saying it, which has started percolating today because today everyone is savvy. Everyone is tech savvy, but not everyone is tech literate. So how do you get that entire segment? Voice would be a potential game changer.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Inclusivity and getting everybody involved, rural, etc. There's a very interesting persona that's coming up, and we're trying to solve this problem, which is the Gen Z. Is there any language model that caters to their language? We've been wanting to include something in a gaming app. So is there anything that you come across which is skibidi and all that?
Great question. Actually, to be honest, I don't have an answer for that. The question was, how do we handle Gen Z? I wish we could handle Gen Z. Right? My biggest retention problem is Gen Z because I don't want to work today. And my question is why? There's no answer. From a language perspective, a lot of people have this different typing style, which I'm not used to. But great is GR8. It's becoming a language in itself. Emoji language is happening. But so I hope we find one, but I would be more than happy to investigate a little bit. I don't have an answer for that, ma'am. I don't know how to handle Gen Z. Yes, sir.
So as the language changes, right? Let's say from Chapter, nowadays you mixed language, right? जैसे मैं आपका क्वेश्चन था कि Gen Z की language है. So over a period of time, languages change होती रहती है.
Yes.
So does the model upgrade on these languages?
Yes. And that's the reinforcement learning part. Okay. Currently, the models that we are using, so we are not tuning the models for the language, but we are tuning the models for the intent and the entities. For example, we tried this stunt and said, मैं किस किस को पैसे भेज सकता हूँ और मैं किन लोगों को पैसे भेज सकता हूँ. मैं किस किस को लोगों भेज सकता हूं, द मॉडल जस्ट couldn't figure out the intent. बट मैं किन लोगों को पैसे भेज सकता हूं, इट फिगर्ड इट आउट. सो वी ट्यून दैट मॉडल टू फील लाइक this is how you have to figure it out. So it's not about tuning the language, it's about finding the right intent, and that intent tuning is what we do with reinforcement learning to the model. So you know what, when somebody asks मैं किस किस को पैसे भेज सकता हूं, it is not anything to do with the kiss, and that's where the model tuning actually helped us out. So there are two ways of doing it. I did do a lot of research, and we are more practical people. We said, you know what, let's make some mistakes. When they don't find the intent, we record it, figure it out, tune the model in. Oh, plenty of errors, sir. It's a system. Like I said, it's not a product I'm selling. It's a direction. It's a service. So that's how it helps. I think I'll have to take a last question because they're very particular about 45 minutes. So OpenAI Whisper actually does is a decent job, like what you saw. But AI for Bharat and Sarvam, they're coming up with some really good models. But well, they have a pricing. There's a freemium model, pricing plus strategy model. But everyone's got to make money. They are open source models, but with a pricing strategy. So you can use those models for this too. It's not API based entirely. It's okay. It's a make do. All right, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, time up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.